So the first one, kicking this off, if you've listened to any of my updates over the past few weeks, I've talked at length about these companies that are going through massive downsizing, they're going through layoffs, they're all of this and the uncertainty that's creating for its employees. And so I myself this week got to experience that firsthand. So for those of you who may not be familiar with me on LinkedIn, or maybe you haven't been following me very long, my previous role, I think technically still on paper, it is my current role, was the chief learning officer for a large healthcare organization. And so I oversaw the development and skill growth of all of our employees. And that position was eliminated this week. And I just found that out. And so for me, this isn't the first time I've experienced this, but for me, everything I've been talking about over the past few weeks really hit home. It really hit close to home. And my empathy levels for what everyone else right now is going through, whether you've been impacted or whether there's just, I got off a call this morning from a bunch of execs, and just the nature of everyone feeling like things are extremely uncertain. And, personally, I am experiencing firsthand the number of emotions that I think everyone goes through as they potentially lose a job. And quite frankly, if you haven't been through it before, I will say I think every professional should experience it at least once. It's a very interesting experience that is challenging, but also really powerful in your own growth and development. So, not that I would encourage anyone to go seek it out, but if it happens to you, as some encouragement, I will tell you, if you approach it the right way, it can be very beneficial to you as an individual and to your career. But I'm right in the heat of that right now. Going through the emotions of a loss, going through all the questions of this. But at the same time, I also have been talking to a lot of people who I left behind and recognize there's a lot of emotions. And so people who maybe you aren't the one experiencing and feeling this, but I'm very sensitive to the fact that just because you aren't impacted by a layoff directly, it does impact you. And I've been there and talked with people who they're wrestling through the struggle of being left behind and feeling like, why this person? Why not me? And that's not an easy road to carry either. And so, like I said, I think there's a lot of emotions that I'm seeing, experiencing, not only myself, but in the people that I encounter, that I talk to, and it's become much more real. And so I wanted to open with that because I know this is an area that a lot of people are wrestling with right now. And I think there's often a tendency to want to puff up posture, pretend it's all good, pretend that this isn't affecting us, pretending everything's fine. And the number of people I encounter who really are struggling, whether they've lost their job or not, is serious. And so I just wanted to take some time to put that out there, not really for any ask so much as to encourage anybody who watches and listens to this who may be going through something, maybe struggling with this, maybe you just lost your job, maybe you are the person who didn't, to find some people that can be a support to you and to be open and honest and vulnerable. I know one of the hardest things for me was, there's this tendency, especially when you're someone who has a significant following and it seems like on paper you've got, it all figured out. There can be this pressure to want to create this persona, this image that you're impenetrable, you're, whatever, nothing really gets to you. And it was very difficult to be open and honest about it and be vulnerable about the situation and the state. And I can just tell you from personal experience, the choice to do that has been exponentially rewarding. It has been rewarding to be open and vulnerable. And I get that can be not how you may feel. You may feel pressure to not do that. But having gone through this, I'm usually really good at being encouraging and supporting to other people. I'm terrible at receiving it. And the outpouring of support from people, I cannot even begin to say how meaningful that has been. And I think that's something many people miss out on when you are constantly trying to create this perception, this persona that you have it all figured out and nothing really gets to you and you'll be fine and you don't want to open up and you don't want to share. Are you putting yourself at risk? Sure, you absolutely are. And is there a risk that you'll get hurt? There absolutely is. But I can say from firsthand experience now that I have vastly benefited more from the kindness, the generosity, the encouragement that has come from that, and it has vastly outweighed any of the risk. So I just want to encourage anybody who's struggling to build those connections, to be vulnerable with someone else. Obviously, do it wisely. I'm not suggesting everybody needs to go be public about things and things like that. You got to do it wisely. But if you are someone who is going through a hard time, if you are struggling with something, I would encourage you not to bottle it up, to box it in, to try and hide that. And this is coming from somebody who has historically struggled with that. And it has taken many years for me to be able to go past and move through that and be able to be in a place where I can be more honest and vulnerable about how things really are. And so I think, yeah, that's just where things are. And so my heart really goes out to people who are in a similar state right now, who may be struggling with some of these exact same challenges, because there is a lot of uncertainty. And if you listen to my stuff for any period of time, you know that I talk a lot about what is going on in the world of work and what is happening and what these companies are doing and what they're trying to wrestle with. I think the other thing that I would encourage people who, especially people who have lost their jobs, or maybe you suspect it's coming. Normally, there's always a suspicion in the back of your mind that this might happen, but you just never believe it will. And when it first hits, there is that sense of just frustration and anger. And I can tell you firsthand that I have experienced and felt all of those emotions. But one of the things that I've been really open about is I'm making a conscious choice to choose gratitude in that. And gratitude is not my emotional response to how I'm feeling, because I can tell you right now, the emotional response to how I'm feeling would not be gratitude. But that I can tell you from my experience that it is possible to do that. And for anybody who listens and watches, you know my faith background. And so I don't claim to have the strength to do it myself. I firmly believe that strength comes from the one who created me. But I know it's possible to get there. And I guess my kind of concluding thoughts, that has been something that I've been meditating on heavily for anybody, regardless of what uncertainty, whether it's job, whether it's health, whether it's whatever. I've been spending a lot of time meditating on Matthew 6:33 and 34, which says, "Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today is trouble enough for today." And couple things for me that have been really hard about that. Two things in particular that hopefully this anybody who listens and watches can relate to this. The first of all, one is I like to have things figured out. And so it has been very difficult for me to say, I don't know even where to start with things. And I know there's a lot of people struggling with that, even if it's AI's coming. I don't even know what to do, or I lost my job, or I am experiencing this, or my company's going through that. I know that feeling of I don't even know what to do. And so that sense of worry about tomorrow, and it's been really hard for me to have to do that. And I think this has been an encouragement and a constant reminder, and I would remind everybody else to let go of some of those things that you can't control, because it'll just tear you apart. And I think the other thing that sometimes I've had people even actually in the last 24 hours, I've had several conversations with people who have said, give you everything you need. Like, you just lost your job. How can you hold on to the hope that you're going to have everything you need? You just lost everything you need, right? And one of the things I've learned over the years is a lot of times I have to readjust my definition of what I need to God's. And that's not always easy. And so part of this process over the last 48 hours or whatever has been about saying, but what do I really need? And are those things covered? And as I go back to that, it's really helped me lean into this attitude of gratitude. And I didn't say that because it's a cliche thing to say, but truly it has, where I've gone, you know what? Do I have a place to live? Do I have a family who cares about me? The overwhelming support I've felt and received from people. Have I gotten the encouragement that helps me want to step forward into the future? Yes. Do I have certainty about what I'll have tomorrow? No. Do I know for sure I'll land another job? No. As much as people say, well, Christopher, you've got all, I'm sure you'll be fine. It's like, I don't know that. Heck, I could be dead tomorrow. But do I have everything I need? I do. And so I just wanted to open with that just as kind of a personal note on where things are. And I even debated doing a weekly update this week, but I'm like, you know what? I do it because I love it. And I do it because I hear from people that this helps them navigate the world around them. And that's why I do this. So hopefully this was encouraging to whoever it is, whoever hears it, whoever needs it. And also just so you kind of know if I'm a little out of sorts or different or a little quieter than usual, that's probably why. But also if you're someone who is struggling and you just need somebody to say, hey, I'm having a hard time. I'm not sure what to do. Just know you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, whatever. My door is my virtual door. I mean, you can't come to my house, but my virtual door is always open.